Hi guys, today's lesson is on making your own pedigree. I'm going to share a little story with you on how to do that. We're going to walk you step by step together, and then I'm going to ask that you create a pedigree of your own based on your family. Okay, so we're going to focus this pedigree, which traces a trait through generation to generation, on eye color. We're going to use two basic eye colors. We're going to use brown and blue. Brown is always dominant over blue. Okay, so my story starts off in a little town in Germany where two young adults found themselves in a wonderful romance. Um, and I'm going to tell you, based on my symbols, okay, that we're going to start with a female, okay, and we're going to label this as a male. Okay, so back in Germany, they decided to get married. The female has blue eyes, and the male has brown eyes. Must have been a sparkle in their eyes because they did fall in love. And they moved to America to start a new life, and they decided they're going to have some children. They had 3 children. It was always their dream. First, they had a boy, brown-eyed boy, and they named him Steve. Stephen, to be exact. Brown eyes. They had another child, another boy. We named him Mark. He had blue eyes. Still in love. They decided in a little town in Bethpage they're going to have a third. And they had a bouncing baby girl with brown eyes. At the same time, in a little area called Northport, another couple found themselves in a similar situation and decided to get married. The female this time had brown eyes, and the male, blue. They too settled down, bought a house in Northport, and had 3 children of their own. Here's a story of a man named. All right, they had a male with blue eyes and then 2 daughters, one with blue and one with brown. Brown. The story continues. When out in California, boy meets girl again. This time, they traveled back to Long Island together to eventually have their family. In California, they had a girl with brown eyes. Very nice brown eyes, by the way. And then they had another child, which this daughter begged them not to do, but they decided to have one anyway. I believe she asked for Christmas, Mom, Dad, I think she said, can I have a sister or a kitten? Somehow, some way, Santa brought this. A boy, a baby boy. So this baby boy had blue eyes. And there's my story, okay? I don't know if you've guessed, Put the California brown-eyed girl, which my mom does actually call me and sing me that song. That's me. I'm going to label me. It's my brother. I call him Brother Jay. Jason, again, who I didn't exactly ask for, but I love. And then we have over here, I'm just going to call her Mom. That's what I like to call her. This is my dad. That makes this Aunt Linda, followed by Aunt Carol. It's Majima. It's Madeepa. This, in Germany, we don't say grandma, grandpa. We say Oma and Opa. And to be formal, this is Uncle Steve. This is Uncle Mark. And that's my story so far. So what we need to do is solve the mystery. We're going to remember that when we have something shaded in completely, it means they have two of the traits, okay, that we're focusing on. And we're focusing on blue eyes being the two recessive traits because you need them. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in all the recessives. So anybody who has blue eyes, we're going to shade in completely, okay? And it doesn't have to be in blue, but we're going to shade it in. And what we're representing is two of the same genes. So they're homozygous. So their genotype is going to be little b, little b. So Uma, who had blue eyes, must have that genotype. That means we have to shade in grandpa over here. Okay, so this is sometimes called my paternal grandparent because they're on my dad or paternal side. And this is going to be little b, little b. Okay, that means that dad over here who had blue eyes is also going to be little b, little b. Uncle Jay, little b, little b. Aunt Linda, little b, and as I call him, Uncle Mark. It's a little b, okay? But we're going to have to go back in the story. We're going to try to figure out some other people's genotypes. We know their phenotypes. I did give you that information, okay? I am going to continue, okay, over here to help you. But for now, what can we say or what can we see? Well, remember, each parent has to give one of their alleles to their offspring. And so because Uncle Mark was born with blue eyes, he not only got one of his genes from his mom, or Uma as I call her, but he also got one from his dad, Opa. So that means he must have, Opa, this little b. But because he doesn't show blue eyes, he must have the brown eye gene to mask it. So he has one of each. So what we're going to do is we're going to shade him in as a half, okay? And that's going to represent one recessive trait, this little b, and I'm going to call him what we now call a carrier. A carrier is somebody who carries the gene but doesn't show it. So they're a carrier for a recessive trait because you can carry something and not show it if it's recessive, okay? So he doesn't have blue eyes, he doesn't have half, that's not what that means. It means he's a carrier. So now I want to try to figure out who else is a carrier of the blue-eyed gene. If I could go back, okay, I could tell you more information about Uncle Steve, but he did marry. He did go off to another country, by the way. Uncle Steve is the same uncle that I talk about that lives in Australia. So we have some more information there, but we're going to just focus on the fact that he has brown eyes. And that just tells us, based on his parents, that he must have gotten from Oma blue because she only has a blue-eyed gene to give us or give him. And then since he has brown eyes, he must have gotten that blue-eyed gene from Opa. Okay, so that one was good. The same thing goes for my mother. She must have received the blue-eyed gene from Oma, her mother, because that's all Oma has to give. But this time, Opa, or the same, must have given that brown-eyed gene. Okay, and when I do a Punnett square to just check myself, okay, I can always do that. So if I want to go in the corner and I want to say, you know what, I'm going to have to check out what this is going to look like, I could take Oma's genes, put them on the side. I could take Opa's genes, capital B, lowercase b, And then in the middle, I could put my offspring. So this is going to be capital B, lowercase b, lowercase b, lowercase b, capital B, lowercase b, lowercase b. So I actually want to know the chances of this happening. It's a 50-50 chance, okay? But you can see they're both the possibilities, and there's no capital B inside of the Punnett square. So I know that this isn't an option, capital B, capital B. All right, then I'm gonna go to the paternal side and just learn a little bit more information over here. So I know Grandpa had blue eyes, and we've already colored him in. And if everybody had blue eyes and she had brown, I might say, okay, she's definitely carrying, or she's definitely a hybrid. However, I do know this because she does have that brown eye gene, and she did have to give one of her genes, because she was a carrier herself, to all of her offspring. Okay, so I'm going to label or shade in Grandma as a carrier. Okay, and then that means from Aunt Carol must have gotten from Grandpa one gene, and this time got the brown eye gene from my grandma. Okay, so there's my information there. Okay, continuing on, there's some information here. I know that Mom, we said, is a carrier, so we're gonna, any hybrids or carriers, we're gonna shade in. I switched colors, but it's not a big deal, we're just shading in. It doesn't make them any different. And then for myself, what's interesting is I'll give you a little more information because I do have two children of my own, okay? So I'm going to add Mr. B, and then I'm going to add my two children, and I have two boys. I have Will, and I have Ben. And based on this, can you tell if I'm a carrier or not? Again, you can't tell by looking at my eyes, but what you can tell is Dad had to give me one of his blue-eyed genes, so I'm a carrier. Okay, now a little information about Mr. B. Both his parents had brown eyes, okay? So before we had children, I wasn't sure if his parents were hybrids, which could have given him a carrier or have that little B, or if they had Big B, which couldn't have. So I wasn't really sure, but I can tell you that when Benjamin came out with bright blue eyes, so I can color him all the way in, I realized that, and William, by the way, has brown eyes. I realized that Mr. B here, okay, is going to be definitely a carrier, okay, because had to give one of each gene from each parent, which means that I'm Big B, little b, Big B, little b, little b, and as far as I know, William, okay, could be Big B, little b, or Big B, Big B. I won't know until he has children, hopefully far, far away. Oh boy, I'll be a grandma. That will be a long time. He's only 9. But I'll show you how that works out. So here is the Punnett square with my gene is Big B, little b. We're both heterozygous or carriers. So the possibility for William, if you look, does exist. And obviously Benjamin's my 25% chance, but does exist for him to be capital or to be a hybrid. It's a higher percentage that he might be a hybrid, but we really don't know. Again, he doesn't have any offspring. And just to finish out the cousins, because we got to bring you up to date here on the 2020, we also have some where Ben and Will have 2 cousins. They actually have 2 girl cousins, which is kind of fun because we don't have girls in the house. Winnie Shay, adorable. And Sadie Ray, also adorable. I guess we can give Aunt Katie a name. That's Aunt Katie to my children. And they both have blue eyes. So my last mystery, little b, you know, is what about Miss Katie over here? And what we can tell you about Miss Katie is if she had to give a little b, because Dad can only give one of his little b's, then she's also a carrier. And so I can do that. All right, so I do challenge you to follow one trait in your family, okay, and create something at least, I would say 3 generations, but to the best of your ability. If you don't know something about your family and you want to create a fictitious one, that's totally fine, okay, as long as you can follow a trait. Sometimes eye color is really hard to follow because there are more than 2 eye colors, and we get that, okay? So if that is not something you want to pick, then you don't have to do that. But what you need to do is research a trait, look up if it's recessive or dominant, try to create whether fictitious, okay, or not fictitious pedigree with at least 3 generations. And I just want to show you, this is the oldest generation, this is the second generation, this is the third generation, and this actually I included a 4th generation, but you don't have to. Okay. All right. So I look forward to hearing and seeing your stories on paper. Please make sure that if you have any questions, you ask, but that you complete that assignment, and have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.